The shriek of a cell phone alarm slices through the silence, flashing 10 p.m. Drako groans, reaching his hand out from bed, blindly grabbing for it. After flailing and fumbling around his side table, he eventually grasps it and hits the off button. He lets out an exasperated sigh, setting it face down on the table. 5 more minutes, he groans from under the pillow. His phone begins ringing. "You've got to be kidding me," he shouts into the pillow. Drako snaps up from beneath the pillows and sheets, reaching for his cell to see who's calling. The screen flashes. The boss. "What the hell?" Drako grunts, rubbing his face. "This better be good," he answers. "Drako," the boss says, "wake up and get here immediately. We have a high priority case that needs your attention now." "Damn, Frank, I literally just opened my eyes." "It's not a request. Get here now." The phone beeps as the call ends. Drako lets out a long, exhausted sigh and falls back into bed. This sounds like it's going to be a fun night. He rolls out of bed, scratching his head through his thick, messy brown hair and grunting slightly as he stretches his arms and walks into the bathroom. He places his hands on the counter, fingers wrapping down into the sink, slowly raising his head to look into the mirror. He stops for a moment, taking in his worn face, staring back at his tired blue eyes. He rubs his scruffy 2-day beard while scanning himself. "How did you let yourself get here?" he asks. "How did you go from an FBI special agent leading the task force against the Mafia to working as the Syndicate's sleuth?" He turns on the handle for cold water and splashes some on his face. Drako grabs the towel hanging on the wall and dries it off. His eyes shift back to the mirror. Poor freaking choices, that's how. He walks to his bedroom closet and flips the light switch, illuminating the row of blue jeans and white t-shirts neatly hanging on the rack. He grabs one of each and pulls them into place while fumbling to reach the black leather belt hanging beside him. Drako opens a small dresser drawer below the rack and removes a pair of white ankle socks. He slips them on and slides his feet into the white Nike Cortez Classics on the floor. Drako taps the light switch as he exits and stops at the bedside table. He grabs his black leather wallet and places it in his front right pocket. Drako picks up his phone to check for messages. Nothing. He puts the phone in his front left pocket and reaches for his pistol, secured in its black leather holster, and then latches it to his belt. Finally, he grabs the stainless steel Seiko watch and clasps it to his left wrist, taking a moment to stare at the face, the second hand ticking away. Drako lets out another sigh and then squeezes the white gold band around his finger. "I miss you, Beth." Drako clicks off the lamp. As he reaches the door to his apartment, he pulls his faded black leather jacket from the coat hanger, the coarse fabric feeling rough against his fingers. He slings it around his back, sliding his arms through the sleeves. As he adjusts the collar, a flake of the peeling leather falls to the floor. "Not again," he sighs. He opens his door, storms out, and slams it shut. Drako arrives at the dimly lit parking lot of an abandoned warehouse. As he enters the lot and drives to his usual spot, he passes several black Lincolns and a Cadillac. He parks. What are the other bosses doing here?" he asks, raising his right eyebrow. "This must be a big deal." He takes a deep breath, holds it for a moment, then releases a long, steady exhale. "Well, better get this over with." He exits his older white Chevy Malibu and locks it. As he rounds the hood, he notices a spot and uses the inside of his shirt to rub it clean. Satisfied, he continues on, casually strolling down the side of the dilapidated-looking building towards the rear. When he rounds the corner, a small red light above cascades its alarming glow over a single, steel-plated door. Drako knocks 3 times and looks up at the camera. The loud clank of the locks releasing echoes through the still night, and the door pops open slightly. Drako pulls the heavy slab and enters, tugging it closed behind him. As he turns around in the cold, dimly lit metal box, Judy is sitting behind the bulletproof glass walls at her desk, watching her little TV as her bright red hair shines in the light above. He approaches the window, reaching under his jacket and grabbing his gun. He sets it on the protruding tray. The thud grabs her attention, and she shifts her piercing blue gaze, pulling glasses from the desk and placing them. "Hey, Drako, how's your night going?" Judy politely asks. "You know," he vaguely replies. "Another night for the Syndicate." She pulls his gun from the tray and places it in one of the lockboxes lined in rows on the wall behind her, typing a code and pulling a digital key card from the door. She turns back around and sets the card on the tray, sliding it forward. "I don't know, Drako," she says, concern dripping from her words. "This doesn't feel like just another night." "Yeah," he replies, taking the card from the tray. "I noticed the other bosses were here already. This should be interesting." "Good luck," Judy wishes, pressing the button under her desk. Drako grabs the door handle as the locks release, turns, and nods to Judy. As he pulls the second steel door ajar, his arm instinctively pops up to guard as a flood of bright, incandescent yellow light pierces his eyes. As he adjusts, his squint widens and his arm relaxes, taking in the brilliance of the pearl-white marble floors laced with gold beneath his somewhat white Nikes. He proceeds, walking past the 18-foot-tall golden dragon fountain. Its ruby eyes glisten as the red lighting in the mouth transforms the water into a fiery projection. He hurries by and down the hall. He turns the corner to see a mountain of a man in a black suit standing in front of the blood-red double doors framed in gold. "Frankie," Drako says, nodding his head. "Hey, Mr. Drako," his deep voice rumbles casually through the halls. "They've been waiting for you." "Yeah, your dad sounds pretty pissed," he retorts. "It's been a long day already," Frankie responds, stepping aside as he grips the golden door handle, effortlessly pulling the reinforced barrier. "Thanks," Drako replies. As he crosses the threshold, he sees the boss sitting at his matching marble desk etched in gold and rubies, trimming his bonsai tree. To the left on the blood-red couch lined in gold are Meridional boss Eric Greenwich, in his usual retro outfit, and Levant boss Enzo Vitale, the few remaining hairs delicately combed over his head. On the right is Occident boss Angelo Rossi, foot-crossed, revealing his overpriced shoes and socks to match his designer pinstripe suit. Next to him is his unwanted protege, Marco, underboss of the Boreal family, each of their respective bodyguards standing by closely. The door thuds behind him, and everyone in the room turns. The boss puts down his scissors. The gleam from the top of his head shifts as he looks up. He strokes his thick black beard a few times, his massive arm almost tearing the tailored midnight blue shirt sleeve. "Took you long enough," he states. "Well," Drako says with a smirk, scanning the room, "I wanted to look good for everyone. What's going on?" "What's going on?" Marco, the stocky Boreal underboss in the knockoff suit, repeats as he rises to his feet. "What's going on is I'm trying to figure out why you're going to lead this investigation into Joey's murder instead of our crew. Because you'll sick your dog of a detective on us without any probable cause," Eric erupts as he stands, his loud paisley shirt flickering in the light. "That sounds like a guilty conscience to me." Marco points an accusation, the dull glint of his fake Rolex catching Draco's eye. "Stand up and say that to my face," Eric rebuts. "Really?" Marco replies. "You're going to make short jokes during a time like this?" Frank slams his desk. A booming thud reverberates across the walls as he rises from his seat, his broad shoulders towering over the room. "Silence!" the boss commands, adjusting the suspenders over his shirt. "I've made my decision, and that's final. Drako will lead this investigation into Joey's murder. Everybody else knows their roles. Speak with your respective police on payroll, and keep this under wraps as long as possible. Marco, make sure you take care to keep any local witnesses quiet, too." "Understood," Marco replies sullenly. "Let me at least task my detective to tag along with Drako." "I work alone," Drako interjects. "He can handle this. Everyone is dismissed," the boss states calmly. "Drako, you stay behind." The remaining two bosses stand, and everyone begins to file out of the office. Marco stares up and scoffs at Drako as he passes. Drako smiles and nods, then approaches Frank's desk. "I knew it was bad, but not blue shirt bad," he comments. "Somebody was really stupid enough to kill Joey Scalini?" "Yeah, or clever enough," he replies. "You need to solve this immediately. There are events already in motion, and this could disrupt everything if it's not handled properly." Drako stares, perplexed. "Events like what?" "That's not your concern," Frank says with a sharp glare, his dark brown eyes admonishing. "Your concern is solving this case right away. So why are you still here? Get over to Joey's office and do what you do best." "Yes, sir." Drako sarcastically spews with a half-hearted salute. "Right away, sir." Drako turns and walks to the double doors. As he approaches, the door begins opening. "And Drako," Frank interrupts his exit, "check into Eric's recent affairs. This has his stench all over it." Drako turns his head around to meet his gaze. "You really believe the Meridional crew had something to do with this? That's pretty presumptuous, don't you think? Call it a gut feeling, but do it anyway." "Will do, boss," Drako nods, exiting the office. Drako pulls into the parking lot of Scalini's Italian restaurant. "Why are there so many people here?" he thinks aloud, annoyed as he rolls past 3 vehicles and a squad car. As Drako approaches the front doors, the damage becomes visible through the glass. He pulls the wooden handle, removing the veil. Moving from the lobby to the dining room, he notices several tables pushed over, shattered wine glasses and broken dinner plates violently scattered. Drako traces the escape path through the carnage back to the office. Drako turns the hallway corner. 2 of Marco's henchmen are standing on each side of the door chatting. "Way to stay alert, guys!" Drako insults the oblivious guards. They snap to attention and turn towards him. "Let me in," Drako continues. "I'm sure Marco told you I was coming." "Yes, sir, Mr. Drako," the bumbling man on the right stammers as he opens the door. "It's just Drako," he replies as he enters. He freezes briefly. Hey, stop touching stuff now. Drako shouts at the officer rummaging through Joey's desk. Who the hell are you? The officer replies, placing his hand on his gun. Of course nobody told you I was coming, Drako responds, shaking his head. Calm down, officer. He pauses a moment to check his name tag. Officer Manelli, no need to pull your weapon. I'm with the Syndicate. I'm Drako. Oh, Manelli replies, instantly relaxing his posture and letting his hand down to his side. So, you're the former FBI hotshot everybody has been buzzing about lately. I guess so, Drako acknowledges, and I need you out of this room immediately. Whoa, 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 Manelli begins. I'm the one in charge of cases outside of the Syndicate, Drako interrupts. This is my case. If you have a problem with that, then you can take it up with my boss. His eyes widen with fear. No, that won't be necessary, he stammers, a slight quiver in his voice. I'll get out of your way. Officer Manelli exits the room, leaving Drako alone with the deceased, Joey Scalini, and his bodyguard, Benny. Drako immediately begins circling the room, scanning every inch. After 3 laps around the office, he hones in on Joey's body and starts inspecting the corpse, digging through his pockets and searching his wallet. He shifts his attention to the desk. One by one, he pulls each drawer and sifts through its contents. Searching the bottom drawer, he feels around the surfaces and discovers a button. He presses the knob, and a panel on the floor under the desk pops up. Drako lifts the panel, revealing a safe with a biometric lock. Perfect, he says with a sigh. He leans over, grabs Joey's arm, and tugs his overweight body towards the safe. Way to perpetuate the stereotype, running an Italian restaurant and being at least 100 pounds too heavy. Drako manages to drag his body over far enough and finally presses his thumb on the scanner. The locks on the safe clank and the door pops up. Drako begins sifting through it, tossing stacks of money and a bag of cocaine aside. Ah, finally. He pulls a stack of papers and a few manila folders out and begins perusing the files. As he is thumbing through documents in one of the folders, he pauses. That's interesting. His phone suddenly rings. He pulls it from his pocket to see the boss flashing on the screen. Great, already on my ass for an update. He groans slightly, then takes a deep breath. He answers. Yeah, boss, he calmly states. Get your ass back to the warehouse now, Frank shouts. Whoa, I just got here and found something fascinating, he replies. I don't care, he yells. Somebody just tried to take me out. Stop what you're doing and get back here immediately. The phone beeps and goes silent. Drako pulls a piece of paper from the files, folds it a few times, and shoves it into his inside jacket pocket. He places the folder back in the safe and closes the door and the panel lid. He exits the office and begins walking away. You two make sure you bring those bodies to my examiner by the boss's warehouse as soon as possible, he says, casually waving goodbye. What? That's all the way across town. The bumbling soldier retorts. Why can't I take them to our morgue down the street? Drako stops at the end of the hall. He turns around, bringing his hand to his forehead, rubbing his temples. He exhumes another sigh of exasperation. Because I don't want your incompetent people screwing up this investigation. Get it done, Drako demands, turning and exiting the restaurant. Drako arrives back at the warehouse, and as he pulls into the parking lot, he sees smoke billowing from the boss's triple black Mercedes Maybach, bullet holes riddled across the driver's side. Drako checks in at the desk with Judy and walks back to the office. As he approaches the double doors, he sees a second bodyguard on duty. You better hurry, Frankie says as he steps aside, opens the door. He's been waiting for you. Thanks, Drako replies. As he enters the office, he sees Frank pacing in the back. Drako walks up to his desk and stands quietly as he continues. Suddenly he stops and looks up at Drako. This is much bigger than I thought, he states calmly. Someone is attempting a coup by disconnecting the families from the Syndicate. Well, let's not jump to conclusions here, Drako replies. This could simply be someone trying to stop the investigation and manipulate who's running this operation. I don't care what it is, he lashes out. Someone just tried to kill me. This needed to be solved yesterday. And with this recent attempt on my life, I need to make sure my best detective has backup too. Wait a minute, Drako interjects. I can handle myself just fine. You know I work alone. Not anymore, Frank responds sharply. You're brilliant, but you're only proficient with your pistol. This isn't like the handful of the cases you've worked so far, and needs to be handled with more than finesse. Drako hears the door open behind him. Matter of fact, he continues, here's your new partner now. The distinct sound of heels tapping against the tile echoes. Drako instantly drops his face in his hands, shaking his head. Sarah, perfect timing, the boss proclaims. You've got to be kidding me, Drako spouts, still holding his head in his hands. She's a loose cannon and will only get in my way. Well, nice to finally meet you too, Sarah cheerfully counters as she stops by his side. Draco opens his eyes as he rolls his head right, slowly climbing Sarah's long, smooth legs up to her thighs, where the tight black skirt begins. His gaze continues upward, revealing her form-fitting white shirt and small black leather jacket, exposing her slim, toned waist. As his scan concludes, she looks over and connects with her big hazel doe eyes. Sarah smiles and winks at Draco. "Are you serious?" Draco spouts. "She's wearing a skirt for crying out loud." "Hey now, this is a skirt," Sarah gleefully defends with a smile. It's the perfect combo of fashion and function. Draco lets out a long, exaggerated sigh. "Enough," Frank interrupts. "I want you both to tear the underworld apart if need be to find out who is responsible for this. Start at Eric's club to see where he's been and what he knows. This still feels like his work." Draco clears his throat. "Boss, I don't care," he cuts off Draco. "If he's not directly involved, I'm willing to bet he knows who is. Just start there and figure this out now." The boss waves his hand, dismissing them both. Draco and Sarah turn around and head towards the double doors. As they approach, the left door opens outward. Frankie is on the other side, holding it for them. They both step towards the door simultaneously and bump shoulders. Sarah stops and steps back. "After you." Draco grunts and continues forward. "Thanks, Frankie." Sarah follows. "Yeah, thanks, Frankie." She takes a few quick steps and catches up to Draco down the hall. "How did he know to open the door for us?" Draco lets out another sigh. "The boss set up several closed network neural chips that he uses to alert his guards." "Holy crap," Sarah exclaims. "So he basically used telepathy to tell Frankie to open the door for us?" "Digital telepathy, sure," Draco replies, rolling his eyes. "Wow, that's incredible," Sarah says, still slightly bewildered. "So what's next?" "You heard the boss," Draco replies. "We're going to the south side. We have to see the Meridional boss, Eric Greenwich, to find out what he knows." "Great, I'll drive," Sarah proclaims, grinning ear to ear. "Not a freaking chance," Draco responds. "You can ride with me or drive separately, I don't care." "Sweet, shotgun it is." "Ugh, fine, follow me." They walk past a few Cadillacs in the parking lot and arrive to his worn-down white Chevy Malibu. He clicks the key fob twice and the doors unlock. "Wow, she's a classic," Sarah sarcastically spouts. "I don't remember the last time I saw a key fob. What year is this?" Draco opens his door and looks across. 24. They both sit down. Sarah's door creaks sharply as she closes it. "Oh yeah, super vintage," Sarah replies, scanning the interior. "It's surprisingly clean. Why put so much work into such a crappy car?" Draco puts his foot on the brake, presses the start button, and then looks right. "It was my wife's." He shifts the car into gear, and they drive off in silence. Draco pulls into a parking lot and stops. "We're here." "Of course we are," Sarah says, staring up at the giant hologram projection on the roof. "I get that it's a strip club, but is the 10-foot half-naked woman dancing beneath a disco ball really necessary?" "Yeah, right," Draco agrees with a smirk. He started Disco Days as soon as he took control. Apparently his grandfather called it the Golden Age, and he's been obsessed with retro culture since he was a kid. "Well, now his outfits are starting to make sense," Sarah exclaims. They both laugh. Draco suddenly stops and clears his throat. "All right, let's get going." "Yes, sir," she replies with a stern face and salute. Draco turns away, shaking his head as he emerges from the car. He cracks a smile. They walk past the line of people wrapped around the building and approach the bouncer at the front door. "Hey, Sasquatch," Draco announces. "We're here to see Eric." The menacing monster of a man looks up from his clipboard, his beady eyes piercing through his long curly hair and thick unkempt facial hair. "You're not on the list." "Listen here, you deep freezer with feet," she glares. "If you don't move out of our way." Draco gently grabs her shoulder. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out his wallet. "Excuse my colleague here, she's still new," he says, flipping it open, revealing a black card, trimmed with an intricate gold pattern framing the Syndicate symbol. The bouncer looks down to examine the card and sees the solid gold circle encompassing the perched owl. He immediately apologizes as he removes the red rope, allowing them entrance. "Have Renee at the podium take you to the back office," he says. Draco nods, and they proceed. As they enter the club, the blaring music pummels their ears, thumping repetitively. They approach the podium. A group of guys in front move to enter the club, revealing a young girl, her platinum blonde wig flowing down, stopping just above the disco ball pasties on her breasts. Her bright purple eyes peer through the edge of her bangs as she lifts her head with a smile. "Hey, cool cats, welcome to Disco Days. Couples get in free. I hope you have a great night," she enthusiastically exclaims. They look at each other confused. You must be Renee, Sarah states. We're here to see the boss. Please escort us to the back office. Oh, I'm so sorry, Renee responds, pressing a button that deploys a holographic stop sign flashing, "No entry. Please, follow me this way." They follow Renee through the curtain. The music intensifies, and they're bombarded with lights and smoke. As their eyes adjust, Drako looks left to see a group partying. A man inhales a white line from the stomach of a dancer on the couch. Sarah looks right. The redhead on stage is bent over, hand firmly holding the man's head, shaking her chest vigorously. They cross the club and exit through another curtain that opens into the changing room. She leads them farther into the back of the club to a door guarded by a large bald man in a suit. Renee waves, "Hey, little Nicky, these two are here to see Eric." He looks at them sternly. Drako flashes his card one more time. He nods in approval and steps aside, opening the door. "Man, I really need to get one of those," Sarah remarks. The door swings open. They step inside and stop, awestruck. "Is it just me?" Sarah starts. "Or is this an exact replica of Scarface's office?" Drako scans the office thoroughly, examining the shaggy gray carpet split by the red walkway leading to a black desk, supported by two thick gold beams. It sure does seem that way. As the door slams shut, a hand shoots up from behind the back of the black chair, his single index finger pointing to the ceiling. "Almost done," he says. A few more moments pass, and then they hear Eric let out a large sigh of relief. After a slight pause, the curly brown hair rises from behind the chair. His silk purple paisley shirt shimmers in the light as the sound of a zipper breaks the silence. "That'll be all for now, Portius. You can get back to work." A stunning young brunette stands up and walks around the desk, revealing an electric blue mini bikini, leaving little to the imagination. She looks up with her large, matching eyes as she pulls the band, letting down her long, black ponytail. She runs her fingers through it, winking and blowing a kiss at Drako as she passes. "How can I help you?" Eric asks. Drako snaps back to reality. "We're here about the murder of Joey Scalini," Drako responds with a sharp glare. "So, you just assumed that I had something to do with it?" Eric casually replies. "I told Frank that no man who wears flamboyant shirts like yours has the nerve to do anything like this." Sarah lets out a giggle, but instantly recomposes. "However, he says the hit has your name written all over it, so here we are," Drako states calmly. "I need to see your books, the footage from this place, and speak to you and your guard to ascertain your whereabouts over the last couple of weeks. You can see the camera footage, and I'll gladly tell you where I've been recently, but nobody gets to see the books," Eric snaps. "It's not a request. The boss has full authority from the Syndicate to solve this as quickly as possible," Drako responds in kind, a slight grin curling the side of his face. "And I'm just supposed to believe that?" Eric responds, his temper rising. "This is bull." The shrill from his antique phone pierces the room. Drako gives a quick glance to the phone as the second ring echoes, then snaps his eyes back to him. "You should answer that." He picks up the phone and puts it to his ear. He stands there silently, blood slowly filling his face red. "Understood," Eric confirms, gritting his teeth, and then hangs up the phone. He walks over to the wall and presses a button on the decorative gold crown molding running across the center of the wall. The painting above pops open like a door, and he swings it across to reveal a safe. He places his hand on the safe and then types a code. The door pops out. He swings the door and grabs a large black ledger from the top shelf and then closes everything back up. He turns and walks back to his desk, dropping the book with a thud near the edge towards us. "Here," he says, the patent disdain still lingering. "So, what do you want to know?" Sarah pauses the surveillance footage. She takes a deep breath and exhales, rubbing her eyes. She stands up, stretches, and then walks back to the office. Little Nicky swings open the door for her and closes it after she enters. Drako is sitting at the desk, scouring through the ledger. "It's been almost 2 hours and I've got nothing," she says. Drako looks back from his chair. "Yeah, the books look good too. Let's talk to little Nicky and get out of here." "He's still waiting outside the door," Eric interjects. "You two can speak with him in the hall if that's all." Drako plops the ledger back on his desk and stands. "That's all for now." He turns and exits the office with Sarah. Drako closes the door. Little Nicky is standing in wait, hands clasped in front of his waist. Sweat begins to form atop the bald, shiny head of the muscle-bound bodyguard before a word is spoken. Sarah and Drako hit him with a few rounds of questions, confirming the events and whereabouts of Eric over the last 2 weeks. His narrow brown eyes shift around as he strains to answer each question. But everything aligns. Drako looks at Sarah. Sarah looks back and nods. "Okay, Nicky, that'll be all," Drako informs. "Actually, one last question. Have you seen any other family members around here recently? Little Nicky's arm practically bursts out of the blue suit as he rubs his chin, staring up at the ceiling. A few moments pass. Then a big smile of surprise and accomplishment spreads across his face. "Oh yeah, a few of the Russian guys were in here about 2 weeks ago," he cheerfully states. "Boss wanted me to keep an eye on them. I remember hearing one of them mention Mr. Scalini's name, but it was too loud to hear what about." "Okay, thanks again, Nicky," Drako says with a pat on the shoulder. "Let's go." He gives Sarah a nod and begins walking away. Sarah gives little Nicky a sharp glance. "Yeah, thanks." She turns and follows Drako out. They get into Drako's car. He pulls his cell phone from his pants pocket and dials the boss. "Tell me you have something," Franks responds. "Everything looked clean," Drako replies. The books and their stories all matched up. "Yeah, almost too well," Sarah interjects. "I agree," Drako supports. "Something seemed out of place. Little Nicky did mention a few Russians who came in there the other night. Nicky claimed he heard one of them mention Joey's name, but that it was too loud to ascertain why. I knew the Syndicate never should have let them into the city," Frank groans. "Go check out Yuri's story and report back immediately. The sun will be up soon, and this needs to be solved before then." "Sir, that's only like 5 hours," Sarah spouts as the call disconnects. "Ugh!" she vents. "Yeah, you get used to it," Drako says with a chuckle. "Let's get on over to Yuri's club." As Drako turns the corner toward the club, he's immediately stopped by a line of cars waiting to enter. "We don't have time for this," he spats. A car zooms past, leaving the entrance, and Drako jerks the steering wheel, slamming on the gas. Sarah's jolted into the door as he launches out into the road, narrowly missing the car in front. He slams his foot to the floor, and the engine suddenly roars to life. The tires chirp as they fly down the wrong side of the road. Another car pulls out of the lot. Its headlights beam directly at them. Drako proceeds. The opposing car frantically flashes its high beams. Drako jerks the steering wheel again, swerving the car off the road onto the grass. He slams the brakes. They skid gracefully by the oncoming car, kicking up dirt on the people waiting in line on the sidewalk. After about 25 feet, the car comes to a stop. "We're here," Drako says with a smile. "Careful," Sarah replies. "You may start enjoying yourself tonight." Sarah smiles and opens the door. Drako follows suit. As he shuts the door, he hears shouting from several people back in the line. He can't hear the words, but their tone speaks volumes. He whips around and pulls back his jacket, placing his hand on his pistol. "I'm here on Syndicate business. Break my car and I'll break your face," he hisses, staring down everyone in wait. The crowd instantly quiets and files back into line. He turns back to Sarah as he clicks the key fob. "Shall we?" They arrive at the front door. Behind the red rope are 2 massive men dressed in all black. Drako preemptively pulls his wallet and flashes his badge. "Excuse me, Rocky and Bullwinkle," Drako jests. The 2 burly giants meander over and shine their pocket lights on the badge. The bearded one on the right speaks. "Follow me." He reaches down and pulls the rope, allowing them passage. They're bombarded with bass the moment they enter the club. They follow the fullback of a bouncer, clearing the path through the wall-to-wall packed dance floor to a hallway. They finally arrive at the janitor's closet. He knocks 3 times, then once more, and finally 2 more knocks. The loud thud of a bolt releasing echoes, and the door pops open slightly. The bouncer says something in Russian through the gap, and then turns back to them. "Okay, you go." The door swings open, revealing a second club. Sarah and Drako step inside, surprised to see a row of 6 VIP sections stretching down each side of the horseshoe-shaped room. In the center, there's an extravagant lounge couch and table. It's impossible to miss Yuri sitting in the middle. His satanic skin art and gold piercings stick out, even surrounded by women and bodyguards. They walk towards him. Halfway down the aisle, the music stops and the lights kick on. The dozens of patrons pause, all turning their attention towards the 2 intruders. They continue walking. "You have a lot of nerve coming here to accuse me of this crap," Yuri bellows from his throne, spit flying through his gold-plated teeth. 2 guards stand up from the edges of the couch as Drako and Sarah stop a few feet from the table. Drako looks up at the one by him on the left, eyes wide. "I should have Kristoff and Alexander take you out back and beat you within an inch of your lives," he concludes. They both take a few steps forward, intensely staring. Sarah steps forward too. "I wish you would," she states with a smile. Drako interjects, "Are you nuts? They're huge." Yuri suddenly nods. "Kristoff," he barks. The big blonde Russian on the right advances. Sarah closes the gap. Kristoff lunges forward, swinging both arms. She ducks under his bear hug and kicks the side of his leg, dropping him to the floor. With the giant down on his knee, she chops him in the throat and then kicks his sternum, slamming him into the table behind. Drinks fly. A few of the models scream and cover themselves. Alexander steps forward and Yuri yells, "Niet, you made your point." "Alexander, grab him and take him outside." Yuri grabs a cloth napkin from the table and wipes the small bit of liquid from his red polo shirt. "What do you want to know?" Yuri confirms his whereabouts over the last few weeks. Drako and Sarah stand up to leave. "One last thing," Yuri entices. "There's a rumor roaming the streets that the Yakuza were behind the hit on Scalini. Several of my men have heard the same story tonight." "Thanks for your cooperation," Drako says with a glare. "Anything for the Syndicate," Yuri replies with a grin. "Hey, I've been looking for a new punching bag," Sarah interjects. "Send your goons by any time." She winks as they turn and walk away. They sit down and close the doors to Drako's car. "Does it seem strange to you that we were led to the Russians and are now being directed to the Yakuza?" Sarah asks. "Yes," Drako confirms. "But we have to run down every lead to make sure." Sarah sighs and yells, "Damn it!" "Whoa," Drako spouts, surprised. "What's wrong?" "I have a bit of a history with the Yakuza," she replies, staring out of the passenger window. "We're going to need to stop by my car before we head over to the brothel." "Okay, we'll make the stop," Drako responds, starting the car and putting it into gear. They swing back by the boss's warehouse, and Sarah points him towards the bright yellow Lamborghini in the corner. They exit Drako's Malibu and approach her Gallardo. "This time, I'm driving, no questions." Sarah waves her hand and the butterfly door swings up. Drako mimics her move. "If that'll keep you from hitting me like that Russian dude," he jests, opening the passenger door. They arrive at the geisha house, and Sarah steps out, walking to the front of the car. "Akeru," she says. The lid pops up, revealing an empty, pristine trunk. She slides a panel down on the interior right wall, exposing a keypad. She types in a 6-digit code, and the floor of the trunk splits open, a blue light piercing from below. The doors slowly fan out, revealing an arsenal of weapons. "Holy crap!" Drako exclaims. "Bit of a John Wick fan?" Sarah chuckles. "I'm more of a cat person." She reaches in and selects several guns, a knife, and a grenade. "A grenade? Really?" Drako asks, stunned. "You don't know these guys like I do," she calmly responds. She closes the trunk and they approach the entrance. Drako shows his card before the sumo wrestler of a bouncer can even say anything. He waves them through and turns to the hostess at the stand, saying something in Japanese. She bows. "Hi." She then turns to Drako. "Follow me, please." They walk through the lobby where a line of women dressed in floral patterned robes are lined up, waiting for work. They continue past and into the bar, where dozens of customers are drinking, doing drugs, and flirting with women. Instead of being led to an office, they turn and walk further in the bar's VIP section. In the center of a large round booth, a man wearing black sunglasses is laughing loudly and spilling his drink as he flails his arms. The hostess stops and turns. "Boss Matsuda will see you now," she says with a bow, then leaves. "Oh no," Sarah says as they approach the table, Matsuda turning his gaze towards his new guests. "This probably won't go well." The loud laughing immediately shifts into vitriolic shouting in Japanese. The 4 behemoths surrounding him stand at attention, eyes fixed on Sarah. 2 more approach from behind. "You must have a death wish showing your face here," Shiro Matsuda calmly states. "We're here on official syndicate business, Shiro," Sarah casually replies. "And you think that is going to save you from leaving this place alive?" he asks, running his hand through his short black hair, his lips curling into a devious grin. Sarah feels a massive weight on her shoulder when the guard behind grabs her. She instantly reacts, grabbing his hand and twisting around like lightning. She strikes him 4 times in a flash while maintaining her grip, jerking him to the floor before kicking his face. The second guard behind them steps towards Sarah. Drako punches his stomach. The monster stops and laughs. Sarah effortlessly slides in, striking him several times, dropping him to his knees. The 4 guards by Shiro suddenly spring to life. Each one pulls their pistol and points. Drako jumps behind a pillar and pulls out his gun. Sarah puts the downed guard in a chokehold and aims her pistol at the boss. "We're just here to talk about the death of Joey Scalini," she shouts. "Ha! And you think because he was here the other night that I had something to do with that?" He scoffs. "Rumors are circulating that Yakuza had something to do with it." She pauses, gun steadily pointed. "Wait, he was here recently?" "Yeah," Shiro replies. "He was sitting over there at the bar drinking alone all night. One of the girls said he was just lying low because he thought someone was following him." Drako pops his head out from behind the pillar. "We need to speak to that girl right away." Mr. Matsuda says something in Japanese, and the guards lower their guns. Sarah releases the guard on the floor and drops her pistol to her side. The big guy on his knees stands. Shiro yells at him in Japanese. He bows apologetically and hurries off. "He's going to get her now," he calmly states. You can speak to her over there in that booth. The three begin talking in the booth, and they discovered that the Scalini said he thought he had seen the same maroon car following him for the past few days. They scan the video footage from that night until they find the maroon Buick Joey mentioned. I recognize that vehicle, Drako says, shifting his eyes to Sarah. It was in the parking lot of the club we visited. Come on. Drako storms out of the security office and Sarah follows quickly behind him. They're stopped as they pass Shiro's table. Get everything you need? He asks. Yes, thanks, Drako replies. Appreciate your cooperation, Sarah derogatorily remarks. Anytime, he responds. Good luck. They quickly walk through the bar. I'm just glad you didn't need to use the grenade, Drako proclaims. Yeah, me too, Sarah responds. Drako opens the door to the lobby and freezes. Sarah runs into him, and her eyes widen. The room is filled with a dozen Yakuza, all holding pistols, knives, and even a few with bats. Sarah immediately reaches into her jacket, revealing the grenade and pulling the pin with her teeth. Now you're all going to drop your weapons and allow us to leave, Sarah states, gritting through her teeth. Otherwise, we're all going to meet our maker. The men turn to each other with worried and confused looks. After a few moments, they all begin to lower their weapons to the ground and clear a path. The two quickly and carefully maneuver through the opening and exit the building. Sarah, still walking backward, waves the grenade and blows a kiss. They return to her car and she reinserts the pin. So much for not needing the grenade, she says with a laugh. One day, you'll need to tell me how you're involved with those guys, Drako nervously replies. So, which club are you going to now? Sarah asks. Back to the south side, Sarah. Drako smiles and pulls out his phone. I'm going to have Frank send his collector. They get into her car and peel off out of the parking lot. Sarah pulls up to the strip club and they hop out of the car. As they approach the front door, the bouncer puts out his hand. Boss says you already got what you needed. Sarah snatches his hand and twists his wrist until he drops to his knees, then kicks him in the face. He falls out, moaning and half-conscious. They walk through the club, which is empty except for a few women finishing up their shift. They storm to the back office and burst through the door. Nice try, Drako exclaims. You almost had us fooled, but I knew something was off earlier when we were here. Eric jumps out of his chair and shouts, How dare you barge in here like this? I told you everything I know. Except for the part where you had little Nicky following Scalini a few nights ago, just before he was murdered, Drako responds. We saw his maroon Buick leaving the brothel just after Joey. Wait, he stutters slightly, turning to his bodyguard. You told me that you were sick that night. I covered for you during their interrogation. Boss, he stammers, defeat emitting from his tone. I was just trying to help you get your old territories back. Damn it, Nicky, Eric replies. You're loyal to a fault. He turns to Drako and nods. Drako pulls wrist ties from his back pocket and cuffs Nicky. They take him to the parking lot where a black windowless van is parked next to Sarah's Lambo. Drako walks little Nicky to the side door and knocks twice. The door pops out and slides back, revealing two men in masks. They reach out and snatch Nicky from Draco's grasp. The door glides shut and the van peels off. The bright yellow driver's door swings up. Get in, I'll take you back to your car. They arrive back at the warehouse and she parks next to his Malibu. Drako looks over to Sarah. Hey, thanks for your help tonight. Sarah smiles. You weren't too bad yourself. One thing still bothers me, Drako continues. How did little Nicky manage this whole thing on his own? He's a brute for sure, but not the brightest crayon in the box. Yeah, I know what you mean, Sarah confirms. Do you think Eric used him as his fall guy? Not sure, Drako ponders. Nothing about his demeanor connected back to Eric as his source. Who knows? Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Drako opens his door and exits. He bends down and looks back at Sarah. Good night. See you later, Sarah replies with a smile. The door drops shut. Drako returns home and opens his front door. As he steps inside, his foot slides on a manila envelope on the floor. He closes the door and picks up the surprise mail. He walks over to his black leather couch and plops down in the center, kicking his feet up on the glass coffee table. He peels open the envelope and removes the small stack of papers. Drako begins perusing. He suddenly finds himself engorged in the material and can't put it down. He turns the page to the last document and stops, stunned, dropping the rest of the papers to the floor. I knew it,